My Ramblings. This episode, who is this guy? This is an interesting tale. And, I think I'll just tell it. When I first started working for the government, I worked as a student employee. I had to apply for the job and then get selected and then show up. But when I went into the internship, it was a Navy's NAVFAC, which is the primary organization that spread throughout the country and the world. It takes care of the facilities that the Department of the Navy needs in order, to carry out its functions and objectives. A lot of office space, hangars, and just every facility imaginable, including restaurants and chows and places for folks, for troops to sleep and stuff. And so they're basically the umbrella organization over all of that. Well, somewhere in NAVFAC headquarters, they administer their PDC program, which is a Professional Development Corporation, I think they call it. Basically, what it is they primarily, it's an internship. People with recent college graduates, you have to apply for the program. You have to get accepted, and they have certain criteria, what have you. Um, the Navy doesn't hire everybody. No one business hires everybody. They only hire so many people. You got to be an area that they have need for. And, your criteria is ranked with other people. But, interesting thing about it is, like any job, it's not always necessarily the very best candidate for the position. It's only, well, who's the best choice out of the people that actually bothered to apply. Well, anyway, so shortly after graduating, I got accepted into the PDC program. And, this is the military. By the way, the Army has their corresponding facilities branch, and the Air Force has their corresponding branch. And I'm not sure about the Marine Corps. I think they sort of fall under the Navy's umbrella with regard to that, although they do run their own bases. Um, I'm not sure about the Coast Guard. I know we had a Coast Guard command or two on some of the bases I worked at. Well, I think sometimes they had their own base. But anyway, so this being the military, they're going to talk in military terms. So basically, what you do is, you have a position that start in your job title and all of that. They have this ladder thing. As you get experience, you advance up the ladder. Nobody's going to work for the government for $25,000 a year for 16 years waiting for that first promotion. They're going to go out and work in industry. So they sort of have a special pay scale for engineers, and they advance you a little faster than what your experience actually would need you for. But that's the only way that they're going to retain um, any decent number of college graduates. And they also apply this program to people who coming from industry after having maybe midterm career. I met one guy who had done that, and he was in the PDC program, and he was mid-career. So what I'm getting at is, well, the position that you're going to end up with, you usually identify that. It can change, but you identify the position where you're going to end up at, where all the rotations are completed. Um, and, well, not surprisingly, guess what they call that? They call that your target position. Okay, military, it's just the way, that's part of the culture. I have a target position. um, and so we all had target positions. That's just the way it was. And, when we had the occasional meeting of all the PDC interns that were working on the San Diego base area, oh, wow, surprised me. There was like about 100 of us at the meeting, 100 recent college graduates. Some of them, had come from other parts of the country. They don't just take local people. I mean, anybody, anyway, it's a federal government, so anybody anywhere within the country can apply, for a position within the federal government. It's not state government where they mainly take state residents, although they also, I know a lot of people that, moved to state jobs. Anyway, that's neither here. So it's a target position. So I'm working in the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Um, Not everybody that works here is Indian. Like the Navy, they give veterans preference. The BIA gives Indian point preferences. But I'm deciding, I want to. I think it's time for me to move on, and so I got a job interview out on the East Coast with Atlantic Division, and so I'm on my flight. We're flying to Washington D.C., and from there I have to take a shuttle trip, or I don't know how much of it I actually drove down to over to Virginia, and for some reason, we had this layover, no big deal. Just going through checkpoints, I guess, whatever, and say, hey, and this was before 9/11. Hey, we'd like you to come over here and talk to us for a second. Okay, that's just sometimes, random checks, whatever. I go, so I go in there, and there's a couple of Air Force guys, Air Force officers. I go, going to a job interview. What's your target? No, actually asked me who I was, and a couple of clicks. His guy's William Maskovich. He thought it was a Master Chief, and then they asked me, "What's your target?" Holy shit! For just a brief second, it's like, what? Washington D.C. I'm flying into Washington D.C. Off I went on my way. you know, okay, that's necessary. They're doing security checks. Fine. I'd rather be secure than have some terrorists flying off my goddamn. I can say airplane I am, but started thinking, these guys should really be pissed off. Unless this was legitimately a random check, if somebody tried to flag me because the Navy uses the word target position and they tried to use that as a. Oh well. Anyway, I thought it was kind of amusing. It was awfully damn serious. Don't get me wrong. It's just seems a little. um, so anyway, I flew into Washington and made the trip over to Norfolk, Virginia, where my interview was. The other thing about it is that when I worked at the Bureau of Indian Affairs at the San Carlos Irrigation Project, we had SCADA systems. It was a utility distribution system. The purpose of the utility distribution was primarily so that we could provide power to the irrigation pumps. Back in the 20s, Calvin Coolidge signed this, signed into law something, and funds were provided to the area to build an irrigation system, and it was actually a loan. So gradually over time, the rates of the water paid back the loan that the government made to develop the irrigation in the area. It was pretty decent region, I thought. Pretty odd it was the desert, but we had SCADA systems along with our switching stations and substations and what have you. And, it was to monitor voltage and current and power and all that. And at the time, it's kind of a good thing to have. You know what was going on, but because this was these basically electronic devices, and they had microcontrollers built into them, so they were pretty much electronic. And well, they were devices, and so back then, before 9/11, they were called IEDs, Intelligent Electronic Devices. That was, that's what we call them. Who wants to sit there and sound out intelligent electronic devices? It just deters the message and the communications you're trying to make between folks. We just call them IEDs. That's what the industry called them. Out in land div, towers come down, and you still refer to them as IEDs, but then the military adopted the nomenclature for the explosive devices, improvised explosive devices, and after a while, after once or twice mentioning IEDs and seeing people's responses, they're like, yeah, you know what? I'm just going to call them SCADA devices from this point on. Just people kind of, I don't know, you're drawing the wrong conclusions. It makes sense. That's now the cultural meaning of an IED is the damn things that terrorists were using to ambush troops and whatever. So anyway, that's my story. My target. All right. Thank you for tuning in. See you next episode.